There are between 2 and 5 million Burmese migrants working in Thailand. Legal, illegal, coerced, trafficked, migrants that have fled human rights abuses, migrants that have fled ethnic discrimination, or simply migrants that have left behind a moribund Burmese economy which offers little opportunity for meaningful work. In 2004, as an adjunct to my professional work, I established and began coordinating a border-based art project for Burmese migrant children. Since that time, the project has worked with more than 500 children, children who laugh and play in schoolyards, budding young doctors, budding young teachers, young David Beckhams and young Frida Kahlos, but children also who are vulnerable to the often harsh realities of Burmese migrant life. Claire Awa, age 14, is a talented young artist. His father was crashed into by a drunk Thai driver whilst he was working as a petrol pump attendant. The father became a quadriplegic, and as a consequence, Claire Awa was taken from school to become the income earner for his family. Santhora, age 16, is also a top student. When she leaves school, she wants to be a leader for her people, but her mother organises instead to sell her to traffickers who will take her to Bangkok. Through the art project, I have had direct involvement in situations such as these. As a consequence, in 2005, I began to photographically document life for migrant children along the Thai-Burma border. I spent time at the famous Dr. Cynthia's clinic and photographed babies born stateless, entitled to neither Burmese nor Thai nationality. I met disabled children and children with chronic health problems, deserted by their parents because such children bring with them needs and financial obligations which migrant families have no chance to meet. Money is at the core of the vulnerability and exploitation of migrant children. Children work as child labourers to help support their families. Children can be trafficked because parents are persuaded this can be the source of a steady income. Children are withdrawn from school to attend to siblings and domestic duties whilst parents work. Poverty leads to stress, and stress translates into social problems like gambling, alcoholism, domestic violence, and the high incidence of broken migrant families. Children work in construction, in factories, in restaurants, in retail. They sew on buttons, they fix bikes, they tend cows, they work in markets, they collect bottles, and for such jobs they earn about $1 a day. It is all child labour. Dr. Cynthia Maung says that families staying together and keeping children at school are the key factors in protecting the rights of migrant children. At the Mae Sot tip, living conditions are squalid even by migrant standards. Adults and children fossick through the dump looking for copper, iron, aluminium and glass. But there are no bosses, and the money is often better than in the nearby factories. One day a bomb goes off and migrants are maimed. It is ordnance discarded by Karen to avoid police detection, say the authorities. Then there is a different story. It was youths who threw the bomb at the migrants. Either way, soon after the bomb blast, the rubbish tip migrants are deported by Thai police. They attract a kind of international aid and media attention that authorities do not want. But the rubbish tip migrants do not stay away for long. The merry-go-round that is the Thailand-Burma border. People cross the river from Burma, over the bridge, under the bridge, by foot, by tyre. They work in Thailand. They are rounded up. They pay pocket money to the Thai police. Then they are taken back, but not across the bridge, but instead they are taken down the river and given to the democratic Karen Buddhist army, where they are made to pay more money. And in this way, already underpaid migrants contribute to local economies with more than just their labour. A father brings a sick child across the river for medical treatment. An onlooking Thai soldier takes 100 baht from his top pocket and gives it to the crying father. And in a rural district, a young boy almost dies of falciparum malaria. He lives only 12 kilometres from an internationally funded clinic, but he is illegal, his family is illegal, and they cannot leave the farm on which they work. And besides, there are 2 military checkpoints along the road between his hut and the clinic. Nor Pore, chairperson of the Burmese Migrant Workers Education Committee, says that it is these children, the ones that live in the agricultural districts, that are at the highest risk. They have limited access to schools and healthcare and invariably end up as child labourers. She estimates that there are 20,000 such children living within 100 kilometres of Mae Sot. And meanwhile, Burmese children are carried on shoulders to catch in umbrellas offerings to a local temple. Other children have their heads shaved for time to be spent as novice monks. Nearby, a drain dries up, and as it does, fish have less opportunity to escape children seeking to supplement family suppers. And at dusk, in a side street, a Burmese woman ladles soup from a cauldron for children of the district. And tucked away in another back street, children's mothers work as cheap and unregulated prostitutes. Other children's fathers loiter with intent, and once a month, HIV-positive mothers, fathers, and children congregate and pray at a Buddhist monastery. Up at the Thailand Friendship Bridge, young baggage carriers wait for their opportunities to earn a few baht carrying bags across the border. Previously, they were the targets of British pedophile Neville Lewis, who at first bought them food, then gave them money, and ultimately photographed them naked or engaged in sexual acts. He was arrested, charged, his passport was confiscated. The evidence against him was overwhelming, but no prosecution ultimately took place. Education on the border is a more positive development. International NGOs, community-based organisations, and the Thailand Ministry of Education work together to give recognition to migrant education. They streamline curriculum. They look to a future which may formally accredit migrant education and give Burmese children access to the Thai tertiary system. But, unfortunately, education on the border is not representative of the situation throughout the country, and in the industrial city of Samut Sakhon, where there are estimated to be at least 10,000 migrant children, there are only 300 attending school. And as I take my photographs, I ask migrants, which is better, Thailand or Burma? And they all answer the same, Thailand, because there is no work in Burma, there is no money. And yes, life in Thailand can be quite good for Burmese migrants. It can be quite good if they are fortunate enough to have a stable job and a regular income, if they are not working by the age of 14, if they do not fall foul of traffickers or the sex industry, pedophiles, exploitative employers, the police that stop them on an almost daily basis and demand pocket money, and the gangs that seem to prey on migrants after dark. And as I continue my work, I see that not every Burmese migrant or migrant child suffers these abuses in Thailand. But at the same time, there is a pall of vulnerability that shades the life of every migrant, and it is this vulnerability which too often translates into actual abuse of social, economic, labour, and human rights. This is not an acceptable way to live.
Utela ya bana mila, utela ya bana mila.